Hello friends, welcome to the channel. My name is Hako. In this video, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about Rita. And one of the neat things about Rita is that there is a lot of ways that you can play her. You can have her as a support to like heavy hitters like 9, but more commonly people will use her as a main carry and then either heavily rely on time axis collapse or relying on chrono circle. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, let's take it one by one. Now, her basic attack cards are called Time Acceleration. You will see that they are the most expensive basic cards in the game. However, Rita doesn't have to pay actual AP for a lot of her cards, and we'll get into that. And she also has a little heal. Now, in most decks, if you're making a good deck, it is very custom to take away Time Acceleration and Rewind. The only time you would want to keep Time Acceleration is if you were doing like a basic attack Rita, which there are better versions of her. So her first unique card is called Chrono Archon. When a card is activated, 1 Chronicle for each cost of that card. So for example, if you're playing her together with 9 and you activate Fighting Spirit that costs 1, and that Fighting Spirit activates a hue that costs 3, you will gain 3 Chronicle. What are Chronicle, you might ask? Chronicle is a special resource to Rita. Chronicle on its own doesn't really do anything, but at the start of the next turn, or if you play her like her final card, you will convert it into Chronicle Ascension. Chronicle Ascension is Rita's own AP. She can expend it instead of AP to play her own cards. So that is also why a lot of her cards are quite expensive. Now this card has a lot of different epiphanies and they all correlate to like a specific playstyle for Rita. The generalist good one is the first one. Whenever you've expended your Chronal Ascension, you get 3 Chronicle. This one is very good and kind of the go-to option. I would say the only one to like really avoid all these ones, in my opinion, is the second one. Then we have the middle one. When a card is exhausted, gain 1 Chronicle. Now this can obviously be incredibly good, especially if you're playing her with like teammates that creates a lot of really cheap like exhaust card like Typhera. However, important to note on this one is that the first part of it goes away, so you will no longer get Chronicle depending on the cost of the cards activated. Instead, you can only get it for card exhaustion. After that, you get Chronicle whenever a card is discarded. And lastly, when a retain effect is activated, gain 1 Chronicle. So these epiphanies, they all correlate to a special playstyle for Rita. And the one you want to go for is always going to be like dependent on the team you're running her in. So if you're running her with Cassius or Nia, the one that gives you Chronicle when you discard might be the best option. If you're running her with, say, Orlea, the retain one might be great, although I tend to default into the first one because that one works in all teams. After that, we have Time Axis Collapse. Now this card is interesting. It deals a good amount of damage, but the damage amount gets increased by 20% for each cost of all of your cards like combined together in the hand up to 200%. So this one caps out if your entire hand costs at least 10 AP. Now this one also has some interesting epiphanies. The first one just increases like the overall damage and it makes it into like a very hard hitting attack. That one can be one of the better ones. The second one gives you 30% more damage on it for every 1 cost or lower card in hand. So that one kind of goes against how you usually stack a Rita deck. Usually you want a bunch of like heavy cost cards, but this one can be great if say that you're running her with, Tressa, that spawns about a bunch of cheap daggers, then that might be your best option. The middle one turns it into a skill that increases the next 3 attack cards of this unit by 100%. This can be good in certain niche situations. After that, we turn it into a retain card. It keeps a high damage, it applies to vulnerable, but most importantly, when you gain Chronal Ascension, so when Chronicle becomes Chronal Ascension, this card will automatically activate. Now this can be insanely valuable because usually when you get Chronal Ascension is like when the big damage is bound to happen. And this sets you up so that you at least have 2 vulnerable for when that time comes. Now you can also of course duplicate this card, so you could have 4 of these cards in hand and all 4 of them like activating as soon as you get Chronal Ascension, which quite frankly is not bad. Lastly, you nerf the damage, but you change the cost of all Fate Imprint in hand to 4. What is Fate Imprint? Well, we'll get into that in just a minute. And I would say the epiphanies that are the best one of this one is either the first one or the fourth one. The other ones can be the best in slot depending on the scenario, but I tend to default into either the first one or the fourth one. After that, we have Future Decreed. Increase cost of 2 cost or lower card in hand by 1 until used. Then you activate 1 random 3 cost card. Now, if you were to run her as a support to 9, this is one of her most important cards. And of course, this can also be used to like play Time Axis depending on the epiphany. It can also be used to like activate, and it can also be used to activate Fate Imprints. Now, if you're running her as her own main DPS, it's not too uncommon to actually like remove this card from the save deck, but it has its uses. Now, when it comes to the epiphanies of Future Decreed, they are very niche. Certain ones, depending on the deck, will be the best in slot option, and it's hard to like say a definite best one. One of the ones I like a lot is the second one. Costs no AP, and you activate 1 random 3 cost attack card in hand. One that will always give you value is the one that turns it into an upgrade card. And it makes it so whenever you play a card whose cost you've manually increased, which happens a lot, you will do 300% damage to a random enemy. This one isn't bad. Now we get to one of the more complex ones. Meet Chrono Circle. So this one will create 2 Fate Imprint. And now Fate Imprint is an interesting card. You get 120% damage for each cost of this card. And every time you play it, you increase the cost of all other Fate Imprint in hand. This card has Retain, and it also has Exhaust. And this also means that if you can get this to cost 10 AP, even though it's gonna be hard to play, you can get it to like deal 1200 damage. The standard epiphany that most people go for is the first one that instead of creating 2, you will create 3. The best one if you're running her with Orlea would be the second one. Whenever you activate Retain, you create 1 Fate Imprint. The last 3 ones I would say stay clear of unless you have like a very specific goal in mind. And for our last card we have Time Paradox. It's a unique card and you decrease all your Chronicle and then you transform it into Chronicle Ascension. Now at first you might not see the use of this, but it can be very, very useful. So Chronicle stacks at 6. And normally the only way to transform it into Chronal Ascension, like in a way we can actually use it, you need to end the turn and then you can do it the next turn. Time Paradox lets you do that on the same turn. Her ultimate is called Hour of Glory. You gain 6 Chronal Ascension and you increase the damage amount of the next attack card of this unit used by 10% for each cost of cards activated this battle. So this is great to like set up one super hard hitting nuke. So, like I said in the beginning, you either kinda choose to play around Time Axis Collapse or you choose to play it around Fate Imprints created by Chrono Circle. Rita, she is incredibly like AP hungry, and the more AP you can feed into her, like the more damage you can get out of it. The cards you're generally looking to remove are the basic cards. Let's have a look at some of my save datas. Now, this is one of my better ones. For this one I managed to get a really good Divine Epiphany for Future Decreed, and I also run this deck together with Orlea. And with this deck it's all about just making really hard hitting Fate Imprints. Another deck that is also incredibly good is this one. With this I've replicated Time Axis Collapse 3 times, so if I have all of these on hand at the same time, they will all activate for free whenever Chronicle gets turned into Chronal Ascension. This one is a little bit of a mix between Chrono Circle and Time Axis. Some really good equipment is Veiled Thorn, Robe of Oblivion, and we're like looking to boost her damage above all. If you're getting a lot of refinement that increases damage of exhaust cards, it might be wiser to go Fate Imprint because they are exhaust cards. So if you're going to run a Fate Imprint, Brilliant Eternal Flame is incredibly good. Now let's take a look at the absolute masters of the Great Rift currently. Let's look at Nox, who is currently number 1. Shout out to Nox. So we can see in his Rita, and this is something that's starting to form in the meta, he's picked up a card and duplicated a card called Flame of Eternity. This is an incredibly good and potent card, and it synergizes like absurdly well with Rita. It increases damage of cards by 40%, but it also increases the cost of all cards by 1, something that obviously like scales very well with Fate Imprints. Now this might possibly be the first time you see Flame of Eternity, so like where do we find it? You find it in the Swamp of Sorrow map. Sorry, I meant Swamp of Judgment. What is Swamp of Sorrow from? Is that a Dark Souls place? Well, you find it in Swamp of Judgment. In here, you can get a special event. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, here we go. Intermediary tree, free. Now this event has like 2 common or normal rarity and then 1 rare. You need to encounter the rare version of it in order to get the card. And this card can only be like found in the interior, and it's all up to luck. Now I have personally run that place like 15 times after I like saw that people were using that card in order to try it out myself without actually getting the event even once. So it is up to a lot of RNG. Now when it comes to partners, the signature one is Ivy. Now Ivy is not bad, like she's not. However, I don't know what happened, but Eloise is like, she's just cracked. Eloise is simply insane, and she's very free-to-play friendly, and quite frankly, the other psionic partners, like, they have a hard time holding a candle to her. So I would say, like, unless you already have an Ivy, like, don't go out of your way to pull one, just use Eloise, because she's actually fucking insane. And quite frankly, it's not the first time that the devs have released a signature partner that like actually doesn't even hold up to like a free-to-play 4-star one. And now you might be wondering, Hako, why do you have Ivy then? Well, I like the look of her and I kind of just assumed that she would be a lot better than anything else. But no, Eloise, like if you have Eloise, don't pull Ivy. It is as simple as that. Now for the memory fragment, you have 2 options for the 4-piece. If you're gonna run her in a Fate imprint build, you want Beast's Yearning. It increases the damage amount of Justice and Order exhaust attack cards by 30%. This one is great. However, like a general good one that is good in all of the builds is a 4-piece Line of Justice. Now crits are important for any sort of main carry. So you either want crit damage or crit chance on number 4. What I'm trying to achieve with my Rita is that I want to be critting on like basically every attack, so I'm trying to reach 100% crit chance with like everything factored in. Now Rita's last potential requires her to get over 800 attack, so you want attack on number 5, you can also run justice damage but preferably attack. On number 6 we want attack, and the substats we're looking for are the crit substats and attack percentage. So if we take a look at my Rita's stats, they are pretty decent. So since she doesn't have any cheap attack cards, all of her attacks benefits of 20 extra crit rate from her gear, which puts this up to 85. If you can then manage to get some crit refinements or some crit equipment, well, you know, we're basically critting on everything we do. And one of my favorite equipments to run on basically any sort of carry is Fairy King's Crown. Now as for Rita's egos, none of them are bad, like they're all freaking amazing actually. Both 1 and 2 are amazing. I would say 1 is slightly more important than 2, but 2 is not bad. 3 not bad, 4 not bad, 5 obviously not bad, and then 6 is, you know, not bad at all. Now let's talk some teams. A main carry Rita team would look something like this. Mika can obviously provide Rita with an insane amount of AP, and Typhera can help her like really reach high potential when it comes to like really hard hitting attacks. But Rita can be pretty flexible when it comes to her teammate. If you wanna run like more of a retain Rita with those cards, you would take out Typhera or Mika and you would slap in Orlea. And of course your standard supports like Veronica or Ray would also work. But what is so good with Mika is that she doesn't make the cards cheaper, she just gives you the AP so you can play them. So a lot of other supports, they can lower the cost of your cards like Veronica, but that's not necessarily what we want with Rita. And now you can also run Rita as an enabler, like primarily for 9, but basically for any character that has like a hard hitting attack, because she has certain cards that can like allow you to play that hard hitting attack without it costing any AP. So Haru could also work in this position. And like I said in the beginning, this is one of Rita's biggest strengths. She can be extremely flexible when it comes to like fitting into basically any team. Just make sure that you build her and you focus accordingly. Alright everybody, there you have it. That is all you need to know on how to play Rita and how she functions. Focus either on time axis collapse or focus on Fate imprints. Get teammates that can provide her with AP and that can also like debuff the enemy, and buff up your own attacks. If we look at the Great Rift, we can see that Rita is very often placed in the very top tier teams, and almost always with Mika and Typhera. And most people in the upper echelon, they all focus Fate Imprint. Alright everybody, if you enjoyed the guide, feel super free to leave it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe to the channel. Also feel free to pop into Discord, we have a Chaos Zero Nightmare section. If you have any additional questions, slap it in a comment and I'll try to get back to you. As always, thanks so much for watching, have a big hug, and until next time, Hako out.